Welcome, everyone. I'm recording this video for those of you who missed the ELA Week 1 session. I will not make this 60 minutes long, so I'm going to kind of do a shortened version of it. And with the practice that you'll get throughout the class, you'll be just fine. Okay, so we begin with this ELA Week 1 in a kind of unique way. So despite that you might have your doubts as to why we're starting this way, bear with me. And I'd like you to start with this puzzle of 9 dots, okay? And you're gonna try to connect these 9 dots using 4 straight lines. I'd like you to pause the video right now and attempt the puzzle. Okay. Hopefully you've pressed pause. You've taken a couple minutes to try to connect the dots on your own, all right? And you might have found it really difficult. So maybe you're kind of one up here and 2, 3, 4, but then we missed this one, right? So whatever you did, if you didn't get it, you're the majority of us, as I definitely did not get this the first time or maybe second or third or fourth time I tried this. But if you did, congratulations. You are extremely bright. So if you didn't, let me just give you one strategy hint. And the strategy hint is that you are going to need to go outside of the 9 dots. So if you're seeing the 9 dots as almost like a bounded area, you're not going to be able to do it. Okay. So now pause the video again, remembering this strategy of stretching through and outside of the 9 dots. Okay, so now that you're back, maybe you figured it out, right? Maybe you didn't, no problem. And here's our solution. So the idea is that you are connecting 3, and then you're going through such that you actually end up connecting only 2 on that on that third line, right? Or I guess you could start in different places, so it could be a different one. But the idea is that here only 2 are being connected. And by connecting 2, you actually get yourself to the solution, right? So many of us assume that you need to connect 3 dots as you're trying to complete the puzzle, right? So we're making these assumptions that it's got to be those, and those 3, and it doesn't have to be. Okay, so the solution really involves that strategy of stretching through and connecting. So you might then say, what in the world does this have to do with the SAT? Okay, well, it has to do with this class and kind of what the class is for and what we as your teachers are going to do to help you. So you can fill these words in on your worksheets. Again, either you're writing, maybe you made a copy of this blank document and are copying the notes in, or if you're just a listener, you can just keep listening. So the idea is that we are teaching you strategy and a little bit of content. So for instance, in our puzzle example, right, we don't need to teach you how to draw a line to connect dots. You know how to do that, right? You've learned that maybe back in kindergarten. But you do need a strategy for this particular activity, right? You need to understand that at one point only 2 will be connected. All right? So that's kind of like the class in that you need to understand that what you know is obviously necessary, but how you apply what you know is going to be the key to this particular game of the SAT. And I'm often going to refer to the SAT as a game, right? You understand the content of that game, but how can you get better applying your knowledge of that content to the game? That's what we're here for. So in the course, you're going to practice, right? That's what many SAT courses are going to have you do. Obviously, you're going to practice problems. But most importantly, you're going to review those problems until the strategy is instinctual. And it's really that review and that building the instinct that so many test prep efforts and courses and books, I don't think stress enough that just knowing the content and even knowing the strategy isn't enough. Right? That's like you can know how to play basketball. You can understand a particular offense or defense, But can you apply those skills, and do you have the skills, right, to do it in a game-like situation? We need to get you to that place, right? Can you perform in a game-like situation? And that is what this course is all about, okay? So that's just a little bit of an intro to kind of a strategy class. And it's, again, very different than anything you've probably ever taken before, where usually you're focused on content, right? Biology, chemistry, history, these are like content-based class. This is a strategy class, okay? So let's begin. So part of the strategy, probably the number one most important thing, is anticipating, is knowing what's coming at you, right? So let's just quickly go through, what does section 1 look like? You're more than welcome at this point to pause the video, to go to a real practice test, right? Probably easiest thing is literally Google SAT practice test and you'll get a million, and go in and just flip through a section 1, okay? You'll see these numbers appear. Well, you'll see this happen, and it might be a little hard to pull out, like, what's the difference between a science and a social studies? Sometimes those are actually hard to distinguish, but that's fine. I'll just tell you this now. There's going to be 5 passages, okay? So section 1 will be 65 minutes long. Longest section on the SAT. That's, again, if you don't have extended time. If you have extended time, we'll talk separately about how your timing will look. And you'll know if you have extended time. If you don't know what that means at this point, probably means you don't have it. So there's 5 total passages. One of them will be a paired passage, meaning one of them includes 2 mini passages, passage A, passage B, okay? Or passage 1 and 2. Now I'm forgetting. Okay, one of those will be ELA. That almost always appears first on the test. In fact, it is always first on the test. Unless the College Board wants to throw something totally different at us, you can assume that the ELA, the fiction, will be the first passage, okay? Then it's 4 nonfiction. So this is a heavy nonfiction reading comprehension test, okay? 2 of those will be science-based, 2 will be social studies-based. Social studies can be anything from history to psychology to biology, psychology, economics, right? Why I even said biology is that you'll find sometimes that they'll take a science, like even like biology or chemistry, and they'll talk about kind of a social studies aspect of it. Maybe something about reporting results, for instance, in a science topic. So you'll see that sometimes they kind of blend, but typically you can pull them apart into 2 science, 2 social studies. If you do 65 minutes divided by 5 passages, then you're going to get this magic number of 13 minutes, okay? That is 13 minutes per passage. You do not want to skip a passage unless I tell you that that's going to be your strategy, all right? And that will be for people maybe aiming for like a 900 total score. So maybe you're aiming for like a 450 in the English. I might have you chop a whole passage off, okay? But otherwise, we're definitely aiming for every single passage. So that's 13 minutes per passage. Okay, let's talk about how the 13 minutes is going to be broken down, okay? You're going to spend the first 3 minutes of that 13 minutes skimming, all right? Here's our snorkeler. The snorkeler does not go beneath the surface. She can't breathe if she goes beneath the surface because she's got that snorkel coming up for air, right? So she has to stay on the surface of the passage. The last 10 minutes are going to be a deep dive. This is our scuba diver, right? This diver is going underneath and examining very carefully parts of that passage, of that underwater space, metaphorically speaking, okay? So what do we do then here? Well, a lot of people skim, or they say they skim, but they don't really know what that means. So very quickly, what does that mean? Okay? Skimming a section 1 passage means that you read the blurb. There will be a short passage at the very top, a very short summary at the top of the passage. Sorry, my daughter's getting water, so this is gonna be embedded in a video forever. Yep, thank you for that, daughter. So you're going to read the blurb of the at the top of the passage and get an idea of what this thing is going to be about. Okay. It's essential that you read it. It's not directions. It looks like directions because it's actually right below the directions, but you may not skip this part. It is really helpful to understanding where this passage is going. Okay. You're going to read for just a basic understanding: the who, what, when, where, and how, right? We don't need details. We just need the basic purpose of each paragraph. Okay. Is the purpose to introduce a new study? Perfect. I don't need to know every detail about that study. In 3 minutes, I just need the basic gist. Okay. So the why of the skim is you are just getting the gist so that you do not waste time on parts of the passage that you will not ultimately need for a question. Okay. We're going to practice this in a second because I know I'm talking quickly. This is an incredibly valuable skill for college. And that's why I love teaching this class. I love reviewing reading. I love reviewing writing before you head to college, because it is going to be very difficult to keep up with all the reading assigned in college unless you have strong reading skills and skills that allow you to get through a lot of material quickly for a gist, right? For the main idea. And that's what this first 3 minutes is all about. Okay, the next 10 minutes. Now you're in the questions, okay? You're going to read very carefully now. So if a question asks you about a particular line, you are zooming in on that line. You are the scuba diver now, going very, very close to this material where every single word matters. Totally different type of reading, okay? You're understanding the details, and the purpose of leaving 10 minutes for the end, right? So 10 minutes to work on the questions is because it's the questions where you get the points, right? Not like the point, like the main point, the actual points on the SAT, right? So if these are flip-flopped, if you're spending 10 minutes reading the passage and 3 minutes doing questions, or even if you split them in half, it's no good, because you don't get points unless you get questions right. You can have the best understanding of the passage, but until you get questions right, you're not netting anything, okay? So please think really about the strategy that we're presenting here and just try it. Even if it's uncomfortable, try it, all right? I'll leave you with the one idea that when we say we read things, you have to know that reading is like walking. It's like swimming. You can read in many different ways, right? If I need to move from point A to point B, I can sprint, I can jog, I can crawl, right? I can skip, all different ways to get there, right? That is the same as reading, right? You're going to read in different ways. Sometimes you're reading to find something, right? Sometimes you're reading because you enjoy every word of it. Sometimes you're reading because you just have to get through it as quickly as possible. Sometimes you're trying to learn something. Sometimes you're trying to argue something and find ammunition for that argument, right? That is what we're trying to learn here, is that the 3 minutes and the 10 minutes are two different types of reading. Okay, so now comes the activity. I'm going to have you pause the video once I give the instructions, and you're going to do this activity yourself, okay? So you need to open up test 8, okay? It's linked in your, it's linked on the website that I created, but you can also literally just Google College Board SAT Practice Test 8. Find that test, okay? Open to section 1, all right? You're going to find the first passage. And in the first passage, you're going to pause, okay? Start a timer, and you're going to go for 3 minutes, okay? I'm actually going to pause here for a second. I can't help you until I'm done with this, okay? Because I'm like many minutes in, okay? Sorry, another child issue. We're in quarantine together as I make this video, so it's super fun. And I'll get to you in a second, okay? All right, so the idea is that you're going to start the timer and only allow yourself 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes. You, in those 3 minutes, are going to read that first passage. It's English, right? And in that time, you are just going to try to get the main idea of the passage. Nothing else. Nothing else. When the 3 minutes is done, you're going to write down or type, if you made a copy of this document, type your main idea. Okay? Start the clock again at the next passage. That's about null results. Start the timer, Go. Okay? 3 minutes. Get the main idea, write it down, start the timer again. So you are doing 5 3-minute reads of the 5 passages in section 1, right? So 15 minutes total of reading. Give yourself 30 seconds or a minute in between to write your thing down, whether it's some piece of notebook paper, here on this worksheet, wherever. So in the end, I'm going to skim by this quickly, so we're not going to talk about these just yet, but you're going to have something that looks like this, where you just have like 1 sentence or 2 sentences about what that passage is about, okay? I want you to pause the video now and do that activity, okay? So I don't want to keep it up on my screen because I don't want you to see my answers, but you're going to pause the video and do that activity of 3 minutes to read each passage, okay? All right. That is typically where we get in the first week of SAT prep in English, all right? I'm going to post one more video that takes you through the rest of this lesson, okay? But if you finish this video, you are caught up on week 1 of the ELA SAT prep, all right? Thank you so much. I will see y'all soon.